This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
We have our quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order at 8:23. Thank you for the call. Regular meeting of the Building Committee on Monday, May 14th. First item is to approve the minutes from April 16th. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Is there a motion to accept?
Make a motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of invoices. We have 4.
Yep. Perkins Eastman invoice 49970.13.0-7 in the amount of $1,550. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
We have to bring them all onto the agenda first.
Oh, you didn't list them? No,
No.
you did not. All
Yeah, I
right.
didn't have them
So then let me list it. Can I list them? I can list them all.
all together.
All right, so that one, and then Perkins Eastman, 49970.14.0-1 in the amount of $4,155. Colliers invoice 20549 in the amount of $1,753.40. Langen invoice LCT 54756 in the amount of $2,297.50. So we need a motion to add them to the agenda.
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now to approve each one. The first one is the Perkins Eastman 49970.13.0-7, the amount of $1,550.50. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perkins Eastman 49970.14.0-1 in the amount of $4,155. Is there a motion?
You know, Chuck, can you just give these guys a cliff note?
Yeah, so this one, back in, when we first started the project and we were starting the new foundations for the addition, the concrete subcontractor installed some anchor bolts in the incorrect locations in the foundation, so they had to be corrected. After discussions, typically we would require that subcontractor to hire a professional engineer and come up with a proposed solution for review by the design team, given the construction schedule and the fact that DTC is already intimate and familiar with the structural requirements of the foundation. We recommended to have DTC review the condition and their proposed fix, sign off on it, contracting that separately with the town and get a credit back from Gilbane. That credit was $4,250, I believe it was. So basically, Gilbane credited the owner back. The owner contracted with Perkins directly to keep that contractual relationship correct instead of directly from the contractor to Perkins Eastman. So it was a correction that was fault to the concrete contractor.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Colliers invoice 20549 in the amount of $1,753.40, and that's mainly Chuck and the finance person.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. And then Langen, this is the closeout report. So they're done after we pay this, which is LCT 54756 in the amount of $2,297.50. Is there a motion?
Chuck, can you just let everybody know the amount that they're over?
Yeah, with this invoice, they would be over the approved amount of $276,000 by $1,168, roughly $1,200. This is the final invoice. It's noted on their invoice. We've received the closeout documentation to the town. They've been transmitted electronically, and I think they're dropping off a hard copy as well.
Chuck, have they completed the closeouts of the removal of the oil tanks? It's all been put to the state, are they the ones doing that?
I'll follow up. I don't know the answer off the top of my head Phil, but I'll follow
I
up.
just want to make sure the state's been notified, the closeouts are done, and all the documents have been sent to them.
All right, so we need a motion on that.
Well, if they haven't, is it possible they can come back with more billings with the oil tanks?
This will be, if it's in their they'll do it. We're not gonna,
Contract.
they won't invoice again. If there is some type of loose ends, they will not contract again. I'll talk to them about that. I'm not worried about that.
I'll make a motion then.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Invoices.
Who do we still have open, Chuck?
There's, I gotta close up primarily with some of the FF&E vendors. I think WB Mason's probably the biggest one. We usually have challenges with some of their invoicing, so I'm gonna reach out to them, I gotta give them a summary of what we're showing for outstanding and paid. There's some of them that have some relatively decent balances left over, so it makes you kind of scratch your head and you wonder why. It's usually because they have two different invoicing systems, and we've had issues in the past with this on multiple projects. For the most part, it's primarily the FF&E vendors for the most part.
So our consultants, the BVH, BVH is still up working. right?
They have a little bit of residual left. They'll have their closeout on the commissioning. Ours is hourly, so whenever we're done with this, the state process, which I'll touch on in a minute, and then closing out Gilbane, and those are really I think the major ones. We have a meeting later this week to discuss that with Carrie. I think there's only 2 or 3 contractors left that have closeout documentation for under Gilbane for that. And then what other wraps up with the closeout is the state change order process, which we've been sending emails on a monthly basis to that office. I think my next recommendation might be to draft a letter for Dr. Cronin's signature, because you're the signature to the state. Kind of put them, for lack of a better term, kind of on notice that we've been requesting a meeting to review the state change orders. And without their closeout back to us, we cannot do the closeout paperwork on our end for the EDO 49 and the 46 that's required with the state. Without their disposition on that review, we can't close out. So that I think might be, I'm gonna send them one more email, try to get that. All their files in their separate building, they moved buildings and went to a different building, so I guess their files are stored elsewhere. And getting those is a bit difficult, it sounds like, so. We're experiencing that on multiple projects.
Okay. How does that affect our reimbursement when, because they're continuing to send the reimbursements, correct?
Well, we're pretty much Tina and I spoke with the state, Michelle Dixon, who does the grant reimbursements. And I think the last conversation we had is we're pretty much done getting reimbursed until the final one. We're really close to that number, because once you start approaching that 90 percentile range, they basically say we're done until, because there's gonna be residuals. The biggest thing is with the change orders that comes, this is the ineligible costs, and understanding what that conversation is, because they'll take that right off the top, and they don't want to overpay the district. And
we don't wanna
we don't want to overpay, because you don't want to have to pay them back. So until we have those change orders back from them, we don't know what they're going to consider ineligible or not. And then I think there's another discussion because of the legislative language that might come into play.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, did we lose anything additional with all of these, where they're trying to take away monies and not pay for things along the course? Are you grandfathered in when your project started, or if they start to take things away during, you can still lose?
So the same thing happened with the FF&E
Yeah.
too. They just changed the rules midway and just
Their
considered
policy
most
makes it
stuff and
current for the
eligible,
project.
which is arbitrary and weird, but
So
that's
bad.
how it is.
When just to remind everybody, when we obtained special legislation, there were statements that were made by the folks at then SFU
Yep.
about what we were gonna be reimbursed. And I have copies of all those statements, many copies.
Yep.
So we'll have to get together and reconcile and make sure that those numbers are correct, because they don't have any authority to override
State
special legislation.
Correct.
That's law. And there's not been any subsequent legislation for this project. So to the extent that they administratively made any changes, that doesn't affect the ultimate bottom line.
Yes, for the
project.
yeah, and until we get all the change orders back and we tally up all what they can, and that's usually what the biggest thing is, the change orders, and we tally it up and we know what it is, we can't even perform that exercise to compare it with the legislative
Right,
language. So.
right, until the change orders are a different story.
Yeah, they're gonna apply the rules, I think it's a separate issue, they're gonna apply the rules that are current, they don't grandfather anybody in, they just apply them. Some of them are verbal,
But
some of them are written.
this should help us, the special legislation should
Well, they-
It's
help
gonna
us in
govern,
that
that's gonna
respect.
govern.
Yeah, that's
We-
good.
We wrote special legislation and SFU changed it. And we challenged them on it. And I asked for letters from SFU, from Costa, committing that we were gonna get what we asked for in our special legislation. And I did receive 2 letters from them. So, as far as I'm concerned, they decided to change, they unilaterally decided to change it because they said it would give us more money. And they threw numbers around about what we were gonna get for a grant. And I thought those numbers were inconsistent with what we said, but they were favorable, so we said, here's the
Favorable, yeah, I
state,
agree.
we'll take the money.
Sure.
So, we should hold them to that.
Yep. So first step is getting change orders approved, get that back, see where we come in, for the final budget, and then go to that step, but.
Yeah, keep me posted if there's
Will do.
any,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try one more email to them. I think we've done 2 or 3 months at this point. I've been saving the emails just because they've been trying to, verbally, they advise us that they're employing a 10% penalty for projects that don't close out, file the 49F within 6 months. Well, if you don't do your part, we can't file an F. So I wanna be able to document that we've reached out to them and offered to go and meet with them to expedite, because there's probably 2 or 3 boxes of change orders that they don't know the project and they're just gonna go through it, and I think they just wanna push it over here and ignore it, because
well,
they're
we can't
overwhelmed.
file, not to interrupt you, but we can't file the final grant application until the Board of Ed accepts the project as complete.
That is well.
And by statute, we can't ask them to accept the project as complete until the final bill's been paid. So,
It's a catch-22
Yeah.
between them, but
so they need to do their
So-
job so we can do ours.
correct, agreed. So we'll keep pushing them, and if we don't get a resolution, I think the next step's a letter, just requesting that.
So they just don't reply at all to your letter?
They do. I've been talking with the administrative assistant, and she's been great. And it just, their staff is so limited. They have literally, 7 or 8 people up there now, and all these state projects, and they just don't have the time and the resources, frankly, to get to these.
The more complicated projects seem to take much longer.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have 2 large renovation projects and they don't, just like North Haven, they don't touch our change order paperwork on those.
yeah, so we have a similar one that's in a similar boat, and they have.
But the nice
12 or
clean
13.
ones.
They just get off their plates quick.
Clean ones, boom, boom, and they go, and it's, yeah.
So what can we expect for time? We're talking about years?
How long did the high school take?
It's not done yet, is it?
Well, it's one thing for
The
us.
holdback is 11% now.
Yeah, they're holding back 11.
worse, instead of
The first
5,
step,
so.
just filing this 49F, which is the final bill and request, is the first step. Now, that's when the audit clock starts. We're not even into that. We just want to get to where we can audit. We're not
Right,
even
but let's
there
say,
yet.
the grant amount is $25 million. They're
Yep.
holding 11% of that, which
Yep.
is over $2.5 million.
It's a good chunk.
So the taxpayers of the town are paying debt service on that.
Yep.
Because when those reimbursements come in, they go right to debt service.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue with it. It's-
And they don't
their time is
account for that.
costing
They
the
don't
town
even
money.
consider it.
Now, I understand that they're short-staffed, but you can't, on the one hand, say, we're penalizing you 10% because you didn't get your final grant application in within 6 months, and on the other hand, drag your feet on change order review.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't to staff that office correctly, or
We're just
have-
passing
or
through.
have
and-
rules that are realistic.
Yeah, we've requested to them to certify third-party consultants that are not on a project, like if we're not on a project, or Gilbane, or even, Perkins Easton, where we've seen this, certify us to review your change orders for you, and then you check it and say, yeah, it's good, and we want to be involved with the project, and still trying to push that because I think it'll help them, someone who's knowledgeable in their process. And
Similar to third-party audit.
The thing
Yeah,
that
that's all it
concerns,
is,
the
yeah.
thing that concerns me is that there are old projects that have not been audited yet. And I called up for another district a couple of months ago for a project that was completed in 2013 and said, I just want to confirm that we can use an outside, and they said, no, we hired 3 auditors, we're doing them all in-house. And I said, so what's the backlog like? Because then that same town, it turned out they had a project that was complete in 2007 that they haven't begun to audit yet.
Oh, my goodness.
yeah, it's not gonna, I'd be surprised, I don't foresee it being in the next couple of years, frankly, the audit being complete, the way they're going.
Postpone
But then
your
if you go in
vacation,
and you
Gary?
have a new project, they're like, you have open projects.
Well,
see.
finish
They
your
can
job.
submit a new
Well, that's why I'm saving all these emails to them, so we can document that we've reached out to them and requested
Right, maybe we'll have some changes after
November.
November. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any retained releases, we're still working on those? Is that-
We are, so as of right now, the only subcontractors that we still have open are Greenwood Roofing, MJ Daly. Greenwood and MJ Daly have a roof change order for the summer to do
Right.
the roof drains or the auditorium. Professional painting, and we're holding back $5,000 on Civitello. They have some staining of precast sills to do. Other than that, Sprint Turf is ready for closeout, and they're the only bill in our latest invoice. So those are the only subcontractors still left to open at this point in time.
Okay, good. You touched on the roof briefly. I'm gonna go in on that. Where we stand on the warranty on the roof?
We've received our roof warranty. We received it about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Is that unconditional?
I believe so.
Yeah, we got it, we reviewed it, actually reviewed it and shared it with Joe and comments with you, and I think, I raised, I think, a couple questions that Jeff, I think you clarified it, and we were fine with those.
Okay, so that's
I
finalized.
recall that email chain.
And this roof drain we're installing will fall within
It's gonna
that.
better it.
It's gonna make it better, actually.
I think it's preventive maintenance for you guys,
Yeah.
risk aversion.
Okay.
Does it have anything in regards to the solar? Like, is that going to affect our warranty at all? Are they ever getting put on?
It shouldn't, I don't know what Greenwood is doing, I mean,
Well, the-
Skies?
Green Skies.
Green Skies has to work with the roofing company
Yeah.
to ensure that anything they do that
Is not
affects
gonna go
the
in the
roof, penetrations of the roof, is approved by the roofing company and the warranty company.
And that's in their agreement, but they're, corporate-wise, they're changing, aren't they?
You got bought.
They're, okay.
So is this still
Green
going?
Skies,
They got
Green
bought by a very
Skies
large company.
is still operating
Oh, yeah.
as it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But are we still going forward as far as we know with that? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And that's when, after the roof drains are
Yeah,
done?
you have to wait till all that work is done before they can put the array up there, because all that's gonna be ballasted, they'll just have to take it all apart.
It's my understanding, the only penetrations are gonna be for the wiring. The units are just gonna sit on top of the
Okay.
roofing surface.
Yeah, but they have to be bolted to the surface now.
No.
It's a- it's a-
They're
it's-
weighted.
Ballasted.
It's a
Ballasted
weight
system,
ballasted
yeah.
system.
Scary.
They do it all the time
Okay.
on flat roofs.
Yeah. pretty common.
Okay. You know, just that we don't have any formal change orders, we haven't had, that's a good thing. But just for discussion, we still have a number of open issues. One of them is the vestibule sprinkler leak, and Chuck, you have some,
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be getting this together finally this week with our commissioning guys who, they'll be able to look at the mechanical systems in there. Kind of give it their, a fresh look at that, because they haven't seen it, but as well as look at the envelope as well, and kind of give another look and see if maybe there's something, that is maybe overseen. With the cold temperature, we're talking about those temperatures in the winter, it was, 15 degrees above the ceiling, which is, we would expect maybe 30s or 40s on a real cold day, but it seemed like it was coming in pretty good above there. So we're planning this week to get on site and finally take a look at that. They've been pretty busy, so apologies for that.
And the gym floor, likewise, you were gonna have
Yeah,
somebody come out.
I've reached out to a couple other different flooring contractors just to get, because I think it was Kenvo that installed it, and certainly qualified. and-
Refinished it.
Yeah, and really just a third, an independent, I call Daleen Flooring, who I've worked with in the past. They've installed and maintained finished floors. Just to come and take a look, just to get a difference of opinion.
I went in on Friday and just did a walk around and checked some of the repair work they did, where they had taken out and then fingered some stuff in, and it seems like it's loose. Doesn't seem like they attached it very well to the substrate. So I can actually feel the boards moving a little bit. It's not from being spongy, it's actually feels like the connection's not there. It was, in the beginning, it was nice and tight.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's from the floor moving or what it might be, but you can feel the big patches that
Yeah,
kind of loose.
I think, my personal opinion is with this new, I mean, when this floor was installed, it didn't have the relative humidities that
No, I
we're
know.
seeing now, and I think this floor is living in a space that it's never lived in before, and it's the only way I can kind of
And we're-
compare. It doesn't know this environment, so it's shrunk up, it's out of its element per se.
We're staying, and we're maintaining 30 to 35% relative
That's-
humidity.
Much like, I mean, I can't imagine where we were before we started the project. I bet it was up in the 60s or something like that.
It's a little
So,
bit of a mystery though, I mean, because, relative humidity in the wintertime in that gym would have been, much lower, 15 to 20%. So it's still kind of a mystery as to why.
I think the 400 gallons of urethane was holding it together tight. That's been for 60
maybe.
years.
But it's so consistent as you walk along a baseline along the end of the gym, and if you were to walk across, it's consistent. It's not like one area that shrunk. It's really consistent. Like every 8 or 9 boards, you're gonna see almost a 1/4-inch gap. I mean, it's pretty large, so it's consistent. And it's the same thing for auxiliary gym. It's very consistent across the floor, which to me is indicating the whole thing is just drying out. So anyways, we're trying to get them on board, as well as another contractor who installed a brand new floor recently.
You've been playing in that?
No, different season now.
I think it's what's contributing to those dead spots. I think just because it's a different floor now. It's not the same floor you had. It's the same wood, but it's not necessarily the same floor.
So Chuck, we've been kind of beating this around for several months now, not getting anywhere. We still don't have any answers from anybody.
Yep.
Can we get a price on replacing the floor and just start talking about this, because we're going nowhere, and we need to build a floor that lasts for 50 years. We can't have a gymnasium floor that we hope stays together for a few years. We need to build a floor that's gonna last. So can we start getting a number?
Yeah,
on
if
what
that's
it
what
would
your
cost?
committee wants to do.
Well, I think we need that as part of it.
Well, it has to come from the committee. I know that's your
suggestion.
suggestion, but does your committee want your project team to, procure pricing for a new floor? I understand.
What was the original cost? We had
I
a
think it was
cost on.
It was like $210,000 savings to go to the refinish, so.
I can
we would
look
assume
up- I can look
that
up the original.
50
That was
or
165.
65.
While we're on the gym, did we end up removing those, we were trying to see if the smell had something to do with those pads that were in there. Did we ever end up?
We checked all the pads, and the gym chiefs checked the pads themselves, and pads don't smell at all.
So there's still that
I-
odor? I know you don't smell
most
it.
of I don't smell it, so.
I don't
And there's
spend
most
enough
other
time,
people I walk in
but,
that doesn't smell it either, so
you know.
I still
Mike,
don't know what.
Mike's
issue is.
clothes, when he leaves there, reek of something, and it's not, right?
Yeah,
Dry
there's
cleaning,
enough
though.
complaints about it.
You better diagnose the cause of what's happening, because if you replace the floor and there's something environmental going on in there, you're gonna
Yeah.
have the same problem eventually.
Plus, these new floors they put in are floating, they actually move.
And if you put a new floor, it's gonna be acclimated,
Right.
it's gonna sit in, they're gonna put it in the gym, it's gonna sit for.
Before they even install it.
Usually 14 days.
Yeah, they wanna put it in for a while, so if it's,
Carrie, can you also look at how much we spent to refurbish the floor?
Yep.
All right, in this case, maybe, should we get a consulting engineer or somebody?
I think so. I think you need to have somebody go in and diagnose the problem.
Okay. I agree, but
Yeah.
Because it's a failure analysis is what it is, right? I mean, that's,
Hoffman Architects here in Hamden, a good one.
Yeah, they're good.
Take a look at.
who? Hoffman.
Hoffman.
And the
Do we have-
possibility is that we wouldn't have to pay the full price of a new gym floor, or are we stuck with what we did in repairing?
I don't know what the cause of the failure is. I don't know whether, just thinking out loud, if it's some event that occurred that might be covered by insurance, for example. I'd like to know that. And before you determine a remedial scope, I think you need to figure out why this happened. You know, if it's just a question of, like what Phil said, where this was being held together by lots of urethane, okay, but
I'm just, I mean, again, I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
It-
we all are, but I think we need some kind
Yeah,
of
oh,
forensic
Absolutely.
determination from somebody that has expertise in this area and them to tell us why this happened and what they recommend and.
okay, so I'm gonna have a, suggest a motion to have, I don't know who the most appropriate, Joe or Chuck, to have an expert to be determined,
Right.
investigate the gym floor issues.
Yeah, Joe can take the lead and we'll work with Joe and.
But just so we have it on record, we wanna move, in the next meeting, we'll
Okay.
have a quote for moving forward on that.
Okay, yeah, so we'll get you guys a proposal, get something from Hoffman to take a look at, or whoever. If you guys have another preference, that's fine too.
All right, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Diane made the motion, I'll second. If I made the motion, Diane.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right, so that's a
Opposed?
a quote to, for forensic investigation for why the gym
Right.
floors failed.
Right.
Okay.
You could get maybe Wis Janney, I've worked with them before on failure analysis, they have a Connecticut office. 'Cause I don't know if there's gonna be material testing or what they're gonna do, probably.
Okay.
RJ County is another one.
Right, they might need to take a section of it and test it and figure out what's going on.
My next question on that is,
Simpson.
if there is remedial action on this, does that go through Gilbane or who do it?
Well, contractually, they've, unless through the investigation, which I would be surprised, but unless the investigation was to show some fault with the flooring subcontractor, which they just refinished the floor, I think it would be outside of Gilbane's contract, but we'd have to see what that investigation
So
says.
it's not reimbursable, so
Yeah, I mean, it's not,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to be done as part of this project.
But we, whether we did it through, whatever the solution is or propose, I think part of me would recommend doing a separate so we can close out their contract, because if we keep extending
Yeah.
that, and I'll leave, Carrie can comment on that, but to keep extending it, it's gonna be hard to close out.
Okay.
Carrie,
There's a lot of ways we can go about it.
Yeah, so,
We don't want it to be a change order, because that'll just mess up in Hartford.
Yeah.
so to replace the floor, the original bid price to replace the floor was $226,000. And then the price to refinish it was $61,000.
It's like 165 was the credit, if I
Yeah.
remember.
Chuck, do you have photographs of the floor that I can include in the request for proposal? Existing?
Yeah, we might have to grab some new ones, but we can take a look
Yeah,
at,
if-
see what I got.
When Langen did testing in there, they cored certain areas, holes. What did they test for? Is there anything on record for moisture, floor moisture, groundwater?
They were probably looking for
There
hazmat.
was
Asbestos.
They were like PCB. I
Yeah.
think they were looking when they drilled the cord for the volleyball nets, if I remember. Sometimes you'll either get asbestos or PCB materials underneath the slab. It might depend on what they used, but go back and
There wasn't anything for moisture or anything? for-
They wouldn't, Langen wouldn't have tested.
Not for our
moisture.
age,
They
no.
were purely just looking for,
That's a good question.
for hazmat.
I mean, it's certainly something in those investigations, they do relative humidity probes where, you drill and you can put a cartridge in there and it reads it, and it's, I don't know, we've seen different readings on different floors. I wouldn't say it's the most reliable, but it gives an indicator of that.
Okay, the other area that is the stage and the auditorium that we still have some lingering issues. My understanding is they did do the concrete work.
Everything that was prescribed they did to this point.
So, for safety.
For safety.
Yeah.
What do you mean concrete work? What are you referencing?
That storage room, that little patch where
Oh,
the,
where the divots were.
Yeah,
So it's-
the door threshold's all done, the concrete's done. I did not check to see if the paint was
From the
completed
stage.
in the front.
What about the floorboards that are behind the backstage? The floorboards that were still
Well, the floorboard-
loose, uneven?
Yeah, well, they're still loose, and again, it's like the stage floor, that thing was sanded down, and you're still getting some type of movement. They were never, I don't know if there was a contract to nail them all, re-nail, or go over them. I personally think we should go over that entire floor with a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 plywood finished and just paint it.
It's a mess.
Just like the high school was. It'll tighten the whole floor up.
It's a mess back there. It's a mess.
Yeah, we talked about it last time, and when I brought it up, I was told we needed feedback from Mr. Piazza, because when I brought all these issues up at the last meeting, everybody said it was up to Mr. Piazza, so he's not here. So we need to get
I
feedback.
haven't heard anything from them on that either.
Yeah, it's the people that were running the play that were having the issues, so, I don't know, Dr. Cronin, can you help with that?
sure can.
I know several of those teachers and volunteers involved have expressed their concerns.
And it's at the floorboards are loose.
Yeah.
There's
and-
a lot of backstage
There's a lot of
issues.
creaking in the floors.
Plus you've
And
got
that's
some of these
the
kids
stage
with
itself, too?
heels and.
So this one, and I don't know very much about it, and obviously we hired professionals. They were saying something about the curtains and the way that the curtains were installed, that they weren't put on the right rigging or whatever, and then when the kids are on the stage and there's movement, the curtain closes. So when they're all performing, the curtain begins to creep closed. Again, I know they've brought several of the issues. I think at least one of the
Never heard that.
experiences left
It's
with
paper.
shouting and slamming doors is my understanding, so I don't know. I don't know which of them it was, but apparently they have tried to bring some of the issues to Mr. Piazza, and at least one of them was not a good interaction, it's my understanding. So if we can ask, I mean, I hope he's not going to say, no, I haven't heard anything, or no, there's no problems, because I'm pretty sure that that's not the case.
Also relative to the auditorium, all the doors leading out, exit doors, the fire marshal is concerned, and the fire chief is concerned of the fact that you can only open one door. When you're gonna exit, if you don't hit the right door, you can't open the other door because of the way the astricals are on them. He wants them removed, he wants you to be able to go out either door during an emergency.
I thought we addressed that a long time ago, but
Well, there
I
were-
know the
there were-
condition still exists.
Right, there were coordinators on those doors, which means that as you're opening, one will close before the other so that it goes in the right direction. But Phil, if you're saying that authority having jurisdiction wants the astragal removed, let's
What
just
he's
remove
saying
it.
is if you're inside and those doors are closed and you hit a certain leaf, that leaf is not gonna open, because it's being held closed by that astragal.
Yeah, that's true, it's very heavy.
Those doors
Yeah.
weigh 500 pounds apiece.
Yeah, no, they're.
I mean, you can open it, you might end up opening it, but during an emergency, you're gonna hit that door and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, we ran into that when we were in there
Yeah,
months ago.
multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
So, I know Chief asked me to bring it up in our next meeting, and, he does want them removed. I don't know why they're actually there, what the purpose of them are.
sound, I think it's
Sound.
sound.
Is it sound?
Yeah.
Those are sound astragals.
What about the egress lighting? What happened with that?
That's ball in my court too. We're gonna get we had the pricing, it came in around $60,000 to install it. So last we talked, it's Ball Micor is going to reach out to a electrical contractor on state contract, get a quote for it, and get done probably over the summer.
About 60,000.
No, they just don't want to do it.
Phil, would you send me an email on the doors, just so we have a paper trail?
Absolutely.
No. That's okay. You don't want that. Okay, anything on the maintenance stuff, Phil? No?
No,
Okay.
just, that's.
I'm keeping it on the list. I'm just keeping it on the list, so.
Did you
We
tell
don't
them
forget
to call
about it.
you at that place on Second Point Road if they get in anything that's in good shape for?
Yeah, they actually have a couple down there that are in good shape, and I looked at a couple, they're between 6,000 and 8,000 for a used one.
What are we talking about?
A lift.
A lift.
So
that
you could
can
change
actually
light bulbs and filters.
Fix things. And one of the problems with the lift is it needs to be tall enough to get up into the air, but also needs to be light enough and small enough to get into the elevator, so you can get to the second floor. But you still need it on the second floor, which is a problem. That's one of the issues in finding the right one.
Yeah, what's a average weight issue on the elevator?
I think it's 2,500 pounds,
Oh.
2,000 pounds.
And a small lift, chances are, probably doesn't have the reach,
The
right?
right height, exactly. So kind of like the one we have for the high school, there's certain areas in the gym that it's just not tall enough to get to fix certain things.
So what do you do?
I have to go rent one when I really have to get up there. And we have one that handles the lights and stuff, it gets up to maybe 20 feet, something like that, and it's rattly, you got outriggers on it. and-
How often do you have to rent per year? How many times would you say?
It all depends on, well, and recently, not so much because we've changed everything to LEDs, so
Not as many
they last a
changes.
lot longer, but the HVAC system, which is,
The filter.
up tight to there is the only time that we have to rent them. Then the contractor will rent them, and of course, back charging us for that.
So roughly, what does it cost you every time that you have to rent it?
I think it's 150 a day, somewhere around there, and again, depends on the size of it.
How's the air balancing in the middle school?
Excellent. And we've been going through it, and, we have an issue here or there, but tweaking out the little bugs and stuff, but not bad at all. Of course, it's always in the music hall.
You heard?
All those windows and doors?
I heard? No. Just some pillow talk.
All right.
Unless you can hang it up.
Yeah, we don't have any other action items, but just a quick update from Chuck. You've already gone through, hopefully you've gone through your
Contingency.
issues on that?
Yeah, no, I think so. We're meeting, I think, this Wednesday.
Yeah.
To review return of potentially some contingency and keep scrubbing the budget.
Okay. Joe, you got anything? So you'll look into that, we got to check out those auditorium doors and we'll
Chuck, I just.
get a quote for the gym
It's like
floor.
30,000.
That's right.
All right, sounds like we'll be meeting in 2 weeks anyway, so.
Carrie?
Nothing beyond just, we got change order work coming up this summer. We did infill and patch the storage room floor that we discussed. And there was a loose handrail, I believe that we
That's-
also
Oh, that's
addressed
right.
that
I was
at
gonna
that same
ask you about
time.
that.
Yeah, that's done too.
What about the paint on the handrail?
The
I
paint-
think he painted it. I think he did. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
And
just
the
still,
floor?
I'm still not sure about the paint on the floor in the front.
I kind of don't remember seeing it when I was in there for the band concert last week. So I
Oh, I
think
was
it
in the
might
band
be
con.
fixed. I'll
Yeah,
check. That might be
I forgot to look
done.
at it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Anything else?
Paint on the floor, Chuck, I'm not sure, that item, the area, the primer on the floor, that was one area that you were looking into.
This is where the carpet was removed.
Yeah, where the carpet was removed. So we can talk further on it on Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'll bring
I'd like to
all of
see
our
where it's-
documentation on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't consistent. It looked like it was spot primed and
Yeah.
it wasn't a consistent color always.
Yeah.
It was blotchy.
And the
Clearly
sills,
noticeable.
the sill staining is gonna be,
The sill staining has been a weather issue and
Yeah.
a timing issue. Like when the stainer was available, it was not, you have to kind of hit that on the right weather days.
Are we pleased with what they brought as far as the color?
No, and
Good.
what we,
It doesn't look like what it's supposed
no,
to.
and what we arranged is that I'll physically be on site. They'll stain a sample, like, as it's sitting there. I will then approve, like, whatever.
I would like to stain one on the building.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
in place.
In a less
Yeah.
conspicuous spot than the
In
front
other
of the
words,
building,
they'll
that would be
stain it.
good.
We'll take a
Just
look at
the
Like in the
stain's
corner
gonna
or
take
something.
differently to one that's
Because that's
already
right in the front of the
stained.
building.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's this, Joe?
So the sills on all of the windows were originally kind of a very dark gray cast concrete. Very shortly after they installed, a lot of that dye seemed to leach out of it. And so they're sort of gray and blotchy and white in some areas, which, I mean, it's somewhat part of the aging process, but that shouldn't have happened in the first year. So Civitella has agreed to have a masonry stainer, who I worked with at a bunch of Yale projects, I know their work is good, come back, take a look at the original ones that haven't faded, and try and match that original color.
And I'm still worried about some of the effervescence I'm seeing on the exterior walls,
The science area in particular?
science area especially, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna lose the quorum. I'll call for a motion to adjourn. We can still chat, but
Sorry.
Make the motion,
Everyone-
Diane.
Make the motion.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
It's been a.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.